Welcome to a Community Partners interview where we explore the organizations, opportunities, and resources that look to make change in our daily lives. I'm your host, Sean Pickard, and you're listening to Voices for Ability Radio, all abilities, all the time. Today, I'm joined by Steve Trussoni, one of the regional coordinators for the Atlantic Region's Tetra Society of North America. The Tetra Society of North America's focus is to find solutions to environmental barriers faced by people with disabilities. While these environmental barriers are a part of a person's journey, Tetra Solutions believes in helping to foster greater independence, quality of life, and inclusion. Thank you for joining us today, Steve. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, Sean. Thanks very much for inviting me.
It's so great to hear from someone regarding the Tetra Society of North America. But before we get into the Tetra Society, tell us a little bit about yourself. Steve Trussoni experience, what inspired you to work at Tetra Society, and why work with individuals with disabilities?
Well, I was a music teacher at the Halifax School for the Blind. The name was changed to the Sir Frederick Fraser School in Halifax for most of my career. And I was the music teacher there. And it was a wonderful experience. Early this is in the mid-70s, early 80s, our school, which was intended to be an academic-geared institution, we brought in, or students came in who had multiple disabilities due to the rubella, German measles epidemic. And as music teacher, I was looking for new ways to try to give them opportunities for self-expression by playing instruments directly. And that got me thinking about different adaptations. I came up with a number of them in my career, how students can access instruments on their own. And when I retired, I saw an advert regarding Tetra, and I realized that this was right up my alley because I had experience in creating different solutions for students. And so I joined on, and I was Halifax coordinator for a few years, and then I moved up to the Atlantic coordinator position, regional coordinator now, and that's where we're at right now.
That is quite the journey, Steve. Now let's take a moment here. You mentioned about creating adaptations for the instruments regarding individuals after measles and rubella. How will measles and rubella impact a person so that is it difficult to manipulate an instrument, or how does it impact a person?
Well, cerebral palsy was really one of the main effects. Loss of the inability to speak, just to vocalize very often. Other sensory impairments like deafness or hard of hearing. There were a range of symptoms that were showing with these kids. So they were hard to reach, and they really needed assistance. Music is something that, of course, reaches everyone. Through vibration, even the deaf and hard of hearing, whom I worked with, can feel and be affected by just vibrations from an object. And the sense of touch is very, very important too. But those children that I work with were, well, of all different varieties of or levels of impairment, I guess, sensory and physical impairment. But so that's why I look for innovative solutions myself to give them an opportunity to make sounds.
Well, let's talk about some of those accommodations or adaptations for a moment. Are we talking strictly keyboards? Is it guitars? Let's talk about some of the adaptations. What did you do?
Well, I think that's what one normally thinks of as being adaptations from playing instruments like the traditional instruments of guitar and piano, drums, let's say. And really, the instruments, I'm thinking more along the lines of our percussion instruments, like the drums, but say a suspended cymbal where you have to have an adapted mallet that's put in a child's hand or held there through Velcro attachment. And placement is very, very important with these kinds of instruments. So you have to have height adjustable and angle adjustable stands that can hold an object in place. And so let's say it could be a recorder that's placed in front of them so they can just reach out and give it a little toot, or like I said, a cymbal or a drum. What I went to, because I was working with groups of these children who were blind, visually impaired, and some of them had multiple handicaps. But when I had a group classroom, I developed a circle, a wheel. It was a pipe wheel that set in the center of it. Well, it was like a cross in the middle, so it was open, just a circular pipe with a central stand, and at the top of the central stand was a small circular bucket, if you like, a bin, and that's where the percussion instruments were placed. So the students, I would lift up the wheel and allow the students to get into each slice of the pie, if you like, and they would choose their instruments, but would have the ability to guide themselves by pushing the wheel in front of them or along the edge of the wheel, and play an instrument at the same time, so they could move, shake a tambourine or a shaker or something like that to piano music that I would play on the piano in the classroom. That's just one scenario. And then a number of the scenarios were just individualized students. I would put students on the grand piano that I had in my classroom and strap them into a device that our superintendent at the time, he did mountain climbing, and he had a device that would allow you to strap in on a mountainside and not fall off the ledge if it was, like a precipice or something, and they had to camp at night. You could roll a certain distance within that's it. It would stop you from continuing to roll. Well, the kids that were on top of the piano and I was playing, they would exhibit a number of different gestures, just sudden gestures, just from the vibration and the sounds that I was making. So it was quite an interesting thing, and that kept them safe. This mountaineering sleep device kept them safe on the piano, so they wouldn't roll off, and I wouldn't have to be right there, holding them all the time. They were comfortably ensconced, and yeah.
That's a unique perspective to actually listen to the piano when you're on top of it, play along with it.
Yeah, it was great for the kids. They would extend their hands in very stiffly in different ways, and a smile would come on their face, and it seemed to liberate them. And of course, I would try to mix up the music, play different styles of music and that kind of thing to see what kinds of things they liked, and yeah, it was good.
So were they more rock and roll or classical type people, Steve?
They don't seem to have. I mean, in general, I would say the population that I work with in general did not have any biases. I think that's one thing about blind, visually impaired folks is that they don't have the same kind of a latch onto a particular genre so much like our like teenagers would do, let's say. And we've all experienced that. It would be like a particular kind of music, and maybe we reject another kind. But these kids were really open to a broader general interest in sounds themselves. And sound, of course, developing listening skills was very, very important for them, for their mobility and for their safety.
Oh, safety, absolute. But let's talk a little bit about the Tetra Society itself. Everybody has these little things that, the boss wants them to say, this is what we do, things of that nature. But when it comes to the Tetra Society of North America, what's the one thing that everybody needs to know?
We're here to enable people with physical disabilities. If you want to do something but can't, we're here to help by building solutions with you in a collaborative approach, and so that at the end of it, you'll be more independent and have higher self-esteem and more involved in activities in the home and in society.
And it's very important that self-esteem is there, absolutely. But let's talk about something else that I saw on your website here, Steve. I came across something called TetraCon, and I just noticed that TetraCon has just happened. What is TetraCon? When will the next one be held? Where? Let's talk TetraCon.
Yeah. TetraCon is a online convention where we present our different projects, or we have talking sessions about different issues regarding what we do to help our clients. This year, the Atlantic region, for instance, we had a Newfoundland parachuter who's she's wheelchair bound. A college student now, but she was in high school at the time when we built this project, was to build her a shooting table so that she could compete in competition. She's actually one of Canada's best parachuting shooters. But her table was unstable, so that was one of our projects that we discussed. In the prairies, we had a project that was regarding a ramp going into a home, and it illustrated the partnership that we had with Habitat for Humanity. Those kinds of things. Those are the things that we concentrated on. And there were opportunities for questions by the listeners. We advertised it so that people could sign up for it on Eventbrite. And so, yeah, we had a good turnout this year. We'll be doing it again next year, I suppose, in the spring again. And yeah, it's been 5 years now that this has been going on.
That sounds like quite a little success there for TetraCon. Now, in regards to the Tetra Society itself, I know you folks like to help individuals with various disabilities, but when it comes to requesting assistance or becoming a member of the Tetra Society, are there any restrictions? Age, caregivers or family members only, things of that nature?
Well, as far as the clients that we serve, they're all ages. But when it comes to registering and getting involved in Tetra, I had a high school student who worked on a project. We have a newsletter called Gizmo Magazine that we have that comes out and it talks about different activities that we're doing as well and highlights volunteer accomplishments. And this particular high school student was involved, and I'd say this probably the youngest, that we're going to find helping out with Tetra. Two, we have here in Halifax, we have a gentleman who ran a bicycle shop all his career, and he's retired, long retired now, and he's in his 80s, and he's busy with projects still. He's been a Tetra volunteer for a number of years. So, yeah, pretty well runs the whole gamut, Sean.
That is incredible when you can deal with that many individuals. Now, when it comes to actually signing resources or supports within the Tetra Society, someone's come forward, they've asked for a little bit of assistance with someone. How do you figure out what supports are to put in place? What goes in to make sure this person becomes successful?
Well, when they start out to contact us, we have an online form. Excuse me. It's a request for assistance form, very easy to fill out, and they are asked to state their problem, and what they think the solution might be. Anyway, at the end of that, they're contacted within 24 hours normally by the regional coordinator, who tells them that the local chapter coordinator will be in touch with them. And so the process begins where the chapter coordinator speaks and gets more details from the client or their representative. Let's say it could be an occupational therapist, a physiotherapist, caregiver, parent, right? So they will look at that issue, the issues around the problem, and the volunteer is chosen based on what it is that the client is looking for in general. The chapter coordinator will make a decision on who to contact. Maybe all of the volunteers might be contacted about this project in a generalized way. And whoever comes forward meets up at the home of the client, and the process begins. They sit down together, work out what might work. The volunteer takes measurements and such, and brings the ideas that he has to the table. A prototype is made and shown to the client, let's say, and just always the client is at the center of this process. And so when the volunteer fabricates this device, one thing I would like to say about the device, the services that we offer, is that the devices are all original that Tetra makes. We make, and we will also, though, modify existing commercially made devices, but we will not take on just the purchase of commercial devices that are readily available through just purchasing. We're there to make devices that work, or we will accept commercial devices that need adaptation or modification for the client. So all of that goes on. The volunteer finishes the project, gives it to the client. Client tries it out. There's a survey given out a month after the project's completed, just to see how it's going. Are they happy with the project? And if there are any tweaks that are needed, the volunteer will go back and take care of that. But really, like I said, the client is at the center of it. Unless they can't be because they have no language or whatever other reasons, their caregiver, like I say, or a therapist is going to be the one who would steer, in the intentions of what's needed, what they want to see the person accomplish.
That is some great stuff there, Steve. Now let's talk a little bit more about some of those individuals. And without identifying anyone, let's talk about success stories. What happened when supports were put in place? Somebody came out, asked for help. Talk to me about a success story. Tell me what happened.
Okay, a woman had a back injury that was quite severe, was not able to get enough support, I guess, from the province, they felt, and they needed a specially designed, like a day bed that would allow them, though, to travel, that it would have wheels, it would allow them that they could take it with them. So there was a specialized kind of entry. They could actually drive a car and walk around a bit, but not for very long. And they had to rest most of the day, lying down on their stomach. And so what we built for this client was a day bed that was the right specification for her, the right length, the right height. She wanted to be able to view and look at a computer while she had her head supported in a massage pillow. And then we had a rope placed on it so that she could just move it along, put it into her car and bring it places. And now she had a degree of independence that she hadn't had before. She was able to sit and wait or stay in a doctor's office and wait for during appointments for her time without being in agony. And she could go and visit friends, taking her daybed with her and spend time socializing. That's one. Well, I think I'd have to say virtually all of our projects make a difference in people's lives. But that's one good example. You want more?
Oh, that's a great example, Steve. And quite honestly, I wish I could get away with, taking my bed with me everywhere I went. That sounds like, that's kind of heavenly, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Now, let's talk a little bit about individuals with disabilities. We all know there are things that happen that shouldn't be when it comes to accommodation, accessibility, things of that nature. But what is the one thing you see happening over and over again to individuals with disabilities that shouldn't be, and how do we stop it?
Okay, let me get that again. The individual is, we're seeing a problem recur, and
well, you personally, you're talking to all sorts of individuals out there on a daily basis, and they run into different things, whether it's an accommodation, accessibility, whatever the issue may be. And there's got to be one thing coming up, and you hear it over and over and over again. It shouldn't be happening. What is it? How do we stop it?
Well, I think the folks who are wheelchair bound have, in our built society, it's so unbelievably inaccessible. So much of our built societies, or it's dangerous for travel, not properly built to accommodate wheelchairs, and what they have to, the terrain they have to go across, and the entrances to buildings and things like that. That's probably the main thing. Just simply opening doors into buildings, the dimensions and things. So now today in our new architectural designs, we're implementing, of course, universal design that tries to accommodate in general everybody. But in older buildings, there's so much refitting and things that needs to be done. So it's quite a bind for people with the wheelchairs, in particular, I think. But there are solutions that are out there, and we're involved in creating those solutions and making it possible for people to do things. Like, for example, we had a client who couldn't bring her groceries up the flight of steps. She just physically couldn't do it. And she was living in an apartment, and there was a number of apartments, and the first balcony was open to the outside. So the idea was what we were going to try to do, but it turned out the landlord wouldn't let us do it. But what we wanted to do was make some sort of a winch to allow her to load up a basket of some kind with the groceries at the ground level, go upstairs, and then start the winch up when she got in front of her apartment, and then take them out of the basket, and that would have been a great solution. But again, the problems are immense out there in our built society, and I think though, then looking at future builds, things look much better. But when it comes to previous builds, we've got a lot of help that's needed by folks.
There are a lot of barriers to existing construction, that is for sure. Now let's talk about volunteers with the Tetra Society there, Steve. If someone wanted to become a volunteer with the Tetra Society of North America, how do they apply? How do they get a hold of someone? What's the process to become a volunteer?
Well, you go to tetrasociety.org. There's a tab for volunteers, and you scroll down, and there's an online volunteer application form, and it can be filled out right there. There's only two requirements, really, that you have a criminal record check or an abuse, I think it's called register check, and Tetra will reimburse the prospective volunteer for the charge for that, and that's where their process begins. We contact them, and we have to do a vetting, if you like, of them, or a onboarding. That's what it's called. And so our onboard manager will contact them by phone and have interviews and try to give them a bit of an idea what's expected of a Tetra volunteer. And then they're given a letter of welcoming them to our society. And the local chapter coordinator will then start working with their new volunteer and inviting them, meeting with them, and giving them more information. And yeah, it's pretty smooth process. It's we're really lucky and privileged to have so many wonderful technical volunteers who have so many different skills, and metal and wood, and seamstresses is another one. Excuse me, seamstresses, and also our outreach volunteers who spread the word out about Tetra and let people know what's going on, that what we offer. That's something that's very important for us as well.
Absolutely. Now let's flip that coin over for a second there, Steve, because if an individual with a disability wanted to be a member of the Tetra Society, they want to ask for help, how do they do that? What's that process?
Well, just like anybody else, I replaced an individual who had my position before me, who was in a wheelchair, had a number of different medical issues, but he moved on to another position with the province. And there's a fellow who's an amputee who's in our volunteer staff, who originally had asked for assistance in he had an ambulatory tricycle or bicycle with three wheels, and you used your hands to pedal. But he had no way to travel outside of his neighborhood because he couldn't fit this tricycle into his vehicle. So Tetra made a very nice carrier for it, and it needed to be custom. So that's why we did it. And so he was off hitting the trails, and he hasn't stopped. He's still been at it. So that's one example of a volunteer, a client becoming a volunteer. So there's no barriers at all.
Excellent. Now, if listeners are looking for more information, how can they reach out to the Tetra Society? Do they reach out to you? 1-800 number, website? How do folks get more info?
Well, I think that your best bet is simply to go to tetrasociety.org, and you'll find there's a phone number there. And if you need assistance or you want to find information about our local chapters, we have chapters across North America. Well, I shouldn't say North America, Canada, and some in the United States. But yeah, it's all there regarding volunteers. We have a database called the Tetra Base. If a volunteer is looking for previously made projects that might be the solution for the one he's working on, well, you don't want people reinventing the wheel, so they would go to our database or look online to see if there's an existing solution. There's all the information is there, tetrasociety.org, and you can go from there.
Sounds great, Steve. Now, we are running out of time here, so would you care to say goodbye to the folks at home?
Well, certainly would. To all my fellow chapter my chapter coordinators in New Brunswick and here in Halifax and Nova Scotia, covering Nova Scotia, and St. John's, for Newfoundland and Labrador, my national manager, Sylvia Balico from Ontario, and Crystal Dachenko in the Prairies, and Eric Molendick in BC, and the list goes on. But those I'd like to give a shout out to them.
Excellent. Thank you very much for your time today, Steve. And folks, that's all the time we have for today. I'm your host, Sean Pickard, and until next time, bye for now.